Greetings. So I woke up this morning, and before I get ready for my day today, I'm gonna record this because Arcturians, I gotta get it 100% right, I suppose, or else that just becomes like an ongoing thing. So we're just gonna do one reading for Arcturians really quickly, so that the energy can be out there. Also, the pre-reading for Arcturians was kind of interesting. I got the Ark, obviously, like Noah's Ark, right? But I also got the fact that, like, for some individuals that really believe in that, the story of the Bible, you're not wrong. Other religions even acknowledge Jesus. They even acknowledge his presence, right? So there's no death of like any specific religion, and that's what Arcturians I think are trying to reiterate. But there does need to be like a shift. There's the Wheel of Fortune. I'll hold this up so you can see me drawing. It's a shift that happens mentally, not so much in terms of what you're doing. What you're doing is gonna be up to you. But this part is the shift. All men are created equal. Some are just better equipped. This is apples. Okay. Arcturians are. It's the proverbial apple that you're biting. It's the understanding of things. It's an understanding, it's knowledge, it's information, it's a free flow or more of an open source, kind of, I would say. They're really powerful because they don't intervene in the way that you would think. They do intervene, but not in a visible way. Yeah. They help you build from the inside out, but in a very specific way. And you have to agree to it, which I don't think a lot of people are very cognizant of, which isn't really that fair, to be honest. Arcturians, like, yeah, there's intuition in the reverse. It's like they'll continue to contact you and be like, are you receiving this transmission? You're like, yes. And then you're like, what's the mission? And an Arcturian is likely to say love or something really vague that doesn't really give you a mission statement. It's because they're gonna micromanage you. In all honesty, that's what I was saying, is they're not yeah, no. If there's a wealth of information, they already have it. If that makes sense. So there is no such thing as sharing to them. It's more like, let me put this information here. So I was saying, it's like a shift. It's the difference between, so you know how people do wife swap or husband switch or whatever that reality TV show is. Imagine you switch homes with somebody, right? And in your home, things are really laid back. There's really no solid rules. Everyone just kind of pitches in. It's like really more of a hippie community, right? It's a all inclusive, very open minded, whatever. Imagine switching homes with a militant family. Immediately that's going to feel like a burden to you because that's not the way that you're accustomed to functioning. It doesn't mean you can't function that way. It means you're not accustomed to it. This is why culture shock is getting accustomed, is learning the customs of other people, places, and things. When you're passing through the airport, they ask you specific questions about what you've put in your bags. Because there are certain things that are going to be a customary issue from one culture to another. It could be something as simple as like a grain of a specific type of wheat. Maybe in the country it originated in, that was the main grain. So we see why you wanted to bring it with you. But if you introduce it in this new environment that you're going to be in, it will literally overrun everything that's already naturally there in the habitat, which completely throws things off of homeostasis. That's what I mean by both. You have to know how to exist in both worlds. The really, really militant one and the really, really laid back one that is not about to, it's self accountability is a virtue versus being accountable to an institution that runs you. Not being critical either way, I'm just putting the facts out here. This is very Arcturian. I'm going to switch to one specific deck so that we can have more of a storyline here. We'll use the Angel deck. Yeah, okay, so this is a good example. This is what we have on the table so far. At the top of the reading, we have all men are created equal, some are just better equipped. I'm going to give you an example of this Wheel of Fortune, okay, and Arcturian contact. I would think that probably, and I don't know this for sure, maybe we can ask the cards. Hold on, different deck while I'm asking that question. I would guess that Noah, or a lot of the disciples in the Bible, were contacted by ethereal beings, whether you call them angels, spirits, the voice of God himself, the Sphinx, whatever you're familiar with, okay? They were contacted and informed about something that they could not prove. It was intangible. You cannot prove it. And in fact, the more you try to prove it, the more enraged people become, right? That's this energy here. It's knowing that you have to build an ark so that all the animals have a place to reside. See that red circle? That's the ark. But when you're making an ark, there's a couple things that go into it, right? You can't just say, oh, well, I'm a princess or I'm a queen. Make me an ark, right? You can't just say that. You have to do a lot of research. And that research goes into delegation of tasks. We need a Della Reese. We need a delegation of board members that are going to watch over Touched by an Angel episodes that are going to be produced using the nativity animals. Obviously, the king and the queen are the king and the queen. Okay? That's the kind of delegation that needs to happen. But for an ark of animals, this is the princess's cat. If Noah kills princess's cat, he's going to be in trouble. It's not going to be a good thing, right? Cat wants to survive. So do the heavenly kings and queens, right? So, that being the case, this is the mentality of an Arcturian. Yeah, I'm just going to tell you that you got to build a humongous boat. Yahtzee, there's the idea. Big old light bulb, right? How you go about doing that, I have no clue. You pick up whatever you have and you start building. Build it and they will come, right? This ark is a fortunate thing, but they didn't know that. They didn't say, we're going to flood everything. They said, build the ark. Do it with this size beam and this specific instructions, how to go about doing that. If you're thinking scientifically and you're building an ark, right, you're going to have to know how to do that step by step. So we're going to go back to the angel deck here and look at the way that we keep these things from dying, keep things resurrected. Don't be hoarse. Look, this is what I just heard my spirit guide say. Don't be hoarse. Cat's got your tongue. It's like the other side is talking smack. And it's because they've got the best of both worlds. Once that arc is made, it's kind of like the bridge between two worlds, planets, universes. You don't need to build a lot of intuition to understand step-by-step instructions. You never have to stand in the kitchen with your grandma trying to figure out what it is that she does to make it taste that specific way versus the recipe. if you've got the best of both worlds. So it doesn't really matter what happened in the old world. There's Rafiki with the stick over the head. You have to know which genetics don't jive with other genetics. You got to have enough biodiversity between two animals, the female and the male, yet enough chemistry to make that work. So that you can just leave things boiling. You just like leave your food on the stove, get up and leave with the aliens. It's like a jumping right off the cliff with everyone that's jumping off the cliff. It isn't a cliffhanger if you know where you're going. So let's see how this is Arcturian. What else do the Arcturian nations want to say? Yeah, they're just waiting. 4 of air. This is literally just waiting. We're just waiting. That's what I mean, is they're feared because they're not cruel at all. But they are not, let's just say, like angels always come with big swords and shields. Like they're going to war. That's what angels do. They're not here to be nice or not hurt people or their feelings. But they are here to protect. Yeah. So here's the 2 of air. That's the part that's not a choice. Okay. They're assigned specific tasks and duties per the entire universe because probably whoever engineered their race of people had a superior understanding even to their understanding. Yeah, there's strength. Number 11. So there's the 3 that we've got. We got the 4 of air, just 4 of swords, just waiting. There's a whole faction of humans that have just not had this realization or they're about to. Just wait for it. Just wait for it. It is not going to be a choice. It's going to be something that's all of us are going to go through it together. You think we're just signing up to go through it together? Now you're just going to go through it, and it's going to be something really strong. I told you they're going to either impose that idea on you or you're going to have it yourself. It's one or the other. That's this focus right here. Yeah, okay, look, this makes so much sense. So the 4 of swords is coming out on top of intuition in the reverse. So intuition is number 15, right? It's like you're waiting on something that you could wait forever for, which is kind of the job of an Arcturian, is to like knock you awake a little bit. Time to get up. Time to get up. It's like the, I don't know, umpteenth wake up call. I need to ring a little bell because that's what this is. It's needing to build solid building blocks. That's what they're there for. They don't have a choice about that. You see the cross right there? It's almost like the angels are the guides for the ark. Could be some tidal waves. There could have been some tsunamis. I'm guessing there probably was if the whole world was cleansed with water. Water is a really strong force. It's that strength coming out. It is literally the catalyst. Water was the entire catalyst behind Noah's Ark. It was the change agent. You will not survive the water. I don't know if you heard that, but I need to go check on my neighbor upstairs because something just was demolished. In fact, give me a moment. She's all right. She's okay. Something just, her cats. Anyway, that was my point. This is literally for people that don't have an intuition. Those people are waiting They would love to have an intuition. I'm pretty sure everyone wants to be able to perceive more than they already are. Perhaps not. Perhaps some people are overwhelmed. There are people that have PTSD or other afflictions that are really overwhelming sensory wise. So this goes every single direction you could ever imagine. But the focus on kindness, on hope and emergence of that hope is something that is kind of like everybody wants that. It's what everybody wants. It's love. Everybody wants love. I don't care who you are. You do. Yes, you do. So that's what's strongly going to be brought one way or another. One way or another, that's being put on the table and it's going to remain there. So sometimes you go through rock bottom, I guess you could say, before you kind of hit your stride. And once you hit your stride, that's when you can kind of embody both. You know, instead of having to be completely militant all the time versus completely just free flowing and whatever comes is what's supposed to be. You can find a happy middle ground where you're not stuck in one world or the other, but you can easily transition and move and be wherever you would like to be at any given moment in time, which in a weird way is dimensional information. It's being both places at one time. They both stem from the same root. It's getting to know yourself so that you can get to know other people. That's literally Arcturian knowledge. Also, the animals talk through the Ark pretty loudly because that's the story that was dedicated to them. Native American stories also oftentimes include animals as deity spirits, spiritual deities. That's what I mean about Arcturian. They're the overarching authority. Okay, this is very interesting. The table's a mess, so it doesn't really matter if I just show you or not. This is what came out. These are the cards that dropped on the table. So yeah, look. Okay. Some people, let me also add this. Even in the animal kingdom, there needs to be a specific kind of genetic diversity. And to give things context, if you're already going to a different planet or environment or culture or a place that has different customs than you do, typically you don't want to impose your own customs on them unless it's something that might be considered rude. You know, figuring out the seating chart for a wedding brings out the bridezilla in a lot of people. Imagine the way that Noah must have felt figuring out whose stall is going to be parked next to whose stall. Who would get along, who would not consume one another, which kind of genetic diversity is available in this specific. Do we keep all of a similar species on one level? I mean, like, these are all theoretical things, and you don't have to believe in any part of the Bible to understand what I'm trying to say. It would be the same for just about any demographic hodgepodge, melting pot that you were to create. You don't get to control who your neighbor is. You either build kindness and concern for one another, or you don't. That's it. What you don't get to do is be horrid to your neighbor because you don't like something that they can't even control, right? That's the idea that's just waiting over here. And the queen of the reptiles, the reptilians, has already wrapped around that idea. they've had that same idea, just from a darker recess of the mind. It's been a battle for them as well to kind of grab onto like how to integrate the dark and the light. Do you put all the nocturnal animals on one level, all the daylight animals, like, the animals that want to be awake during the day on a different level? These are all things that you would have to consider. The unicorn didn't get on the ark. In fact, out of all of the animals, also the sea serpent, these are mystical animals that didn't make it on the ark. These are the ones that we call mystical. Puff the Magic Dragon and the last unicorn. Okay? Those are what was spliced in between here. But it cannot be yes. Yeah. The unicorn, I'm sure, was plenty jealous that they didn't get to get on the ark. But also there's a reason that these are different than these. It's similar to saying, I own a parrot, a gray African parrot, versus saying, I own a bald eagle. It's the difference between saying, I have a little tiny black cat versus I have a humongous tigress named Raja. Do you understand what I'm saying? The difference between saying I have a newt or a gecko, a small lizard, versus a flying dragon, an axolotl of oversized proportions. Okay, it's the difference between the two. If you've ever been to a tropical island, the only one, well, not the only one, but one of the ones that stood out for me was Costa Rica. Whereas here in the United States, a pansy is literally all but this size right here. You could hold it in the palm of your hand easily. Over there, a pansy is the size of my entire head. That's the difference in the mindset. The overriding authority has to watch out for this idea, because this idea does incite quite a bit of undue scrutiny, as well as like intense focus and intention that doesn't necessarily fall in line with this this energy here, building together. It isn't a pyramid upward. It's a people trying to, bra by bra, book by book, burn it, take it down. You see that burning piece of information right there? That's this egg is being lifted up and protected because it has to be. It's almost like the soul of the earth is protected. The spirit of the earth is protected. All of it is protected because the Arcturians, the reptilians, I could add the Greys right here. All of them have eyes on the prize. In fact, this was the Grey reading. All of the higher level of royalty of their family, of their top of their species, predator, dominant species, right? Because snakes do lay eggs, so you can't assume that that's anybody except for the snake's egg. They're all going to protect what's theirs. She's protecting her crown. This one's protecting its egg, and this one's protecting this bright spot. Bright piece of information that could be taken and applied to all the entire arc. It's drawing the line in the sand using your horns. It's a bull market versus a bear market. Okay, that's the nature of things. This might look black and white, but it's going to be red all over. And everyone might read exactly the same article and have 50 different opinions about it, which is why you're seeing the whole spectrum of effects. It's not just the Mandela effect. The difference between this and this one just got their third eye blind, semi-charmed kind of life. They're waiting for their intuition to be reinstalled, for someone to poke a hole so that they can imagine bigger, larger, better things. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with this. Look, everybody on the ark is now searching for the unicorn. How ironic is that? You had one, you left it behind to drown in water. Then you're talking about seahorses, and you didn't think any of the horsemen were going to come from below, from beneath. Just the backside of the moon. That's the only one that we were fathoming, I guess. They're coming from every angle. You can't hold your horses once this happens. There's no horses to be held. They've all escaped the stable. Escape. And it is not a fragile situation, because the royals rarely go to war when they think they're going to lose. And for once, they may all be agreeing about Earth. I don't know. Don't shoot the messenger, please. I'm just relaying the message. Let me shuffle one more time and get one moving forward, because we've just seen the Arcturian hierarchy want to show its grandeur. It's kind of just letting the animals speak for themselves, but that's pretty clear. This sea serpent, it's worth noting that the sea serpent was in reverse when it first came out. Animal Kingdom doesn't really get jealous, they get territorial. That's a better way to phrase what I'm trying to say about Arcturians. It's not that they're not kind, they are. But they're not tolerant of behavior that does not benefit the broader communities for the greater good at all times. And if you can't get with the greater good, this switches really quickly from kind of docile. You know how the trainers at Waterworld, they went to they were almost dragged to a different planet, like off this planet, off the face of this planet, by their, what they would have considered their friend, their pet, their beloved animal, like, of choice at SeaWorld. Like, that was almost the end of that. And it's because your instinct when you're primitive, or when you're an animal, is to protect yourself, is to be territorial, is to get all of your needs on that hierarchy met. There's moonlight. It's a specific area of this hierarchy. Like, arc. I feel like I'm like a seal or something like that. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a piece of information that will be visible to those who are above, behind, or observing this regularly. Okay? You look. There's the sun. Dance it off. This sun has its eyes closed because it is so bright. Now we've got the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon. That's what this hierarchy is protecting the sun, because it's so bright that it even illuminates the moon in the night sky. That's Arcturian energy signature. When you look at the light of the moon, you can see it. If you stare at the sun and then there's a blotch in your vision, there you go. That's Arcturian energy. People who want to stare at the sun when it comes up in the morning and think of it as a way of recharging themselves, very Arcturian. Yeah, there's tea time. It just flew out on top of the cosmic egg.